It was the middle of summer when our law firm welcomed a group of new interns. Most of them were fresh graduates from Ivy League schools, dressed sharp, and full of nervous energy. I had seen countless interns pass through our offices over the years, most of them fading into the background after a few weeks. But this year, one of them stood out immediately, not just because of his height or confidence, but because he seemed to truly care. His name was Darius Thompson. Darius was assigned to work directly with me. As the senior associate at Whitley and Barnes Law Group, I was responsible for overseeing contract cases and keeping our younger employees on track. At first, I didn't think much about the new batch of interns. But the first day Darius walked into my office, I could tell he wasn't like the others. He was tall, probably 6 feet 5 inches, and carried himself with quiet composure. He introduced himself with a firm handshake and a polite, respectful tone that immediately set him apart. "Hi, Ms. Walker. I'm Darius Thompson. I'm really looking forward to learning from you this summer." "Nice to meet you, Darius," I replied. "Let's see if you can handle what we've got going on here." I gave him the rundown of our current workload: drafting, reviewing contracts, preparing case summaries, and working on a massive corporate merger that had every attorney pulling late nights. I figured he'd be like the rest, start strong, burn out fast, and eventually just go through the motions until the internship ended. But by the end of the first week, I was eating my words. Darius showed up early every morning, stayed later than anyone else, and never once complained. He asked thoughtful questions, took detailed notes, and adapted quickly to the fast pace. One night, I found him in the break room after 10 p.m., still reviewing documents. "You should head home," I said, trying not to sound too surprised. "I just want to make sure I understand the details of this acquisition case," he replied. "You mentioned it might go to arbitration, and I want to know the precedents." I stared at him for a moment. You know, most interns don't even know what arbitration means until week 5.
He grinned.
I read ahead. There was something refreshing about Darius's attitude. He didn't act like he knew everything, but he also wasn't intimidated. Over the next couple of weeks, we ended up working side by side on the same big account. It was rare for a senior associate to spend that much time with an intern, but he earned every minute. It wasn't long before the rest of the firm started noticing, too. The partners began calling on Darius during morning briefings. Clients even commented on his professionalism. It didn't matter if it was drafting legal clauses, organizing case files, or staying late to finish briefs, he was all in. Then came the night that would test us all. A high-profile client from Chicago sent over a mountain of last-minute revisions for a deal scheduled to close the next morning. Our lead associate on the case had gone home sick, and I was left scrambling to handle it with only a skeleton crew. Most of the interns had already left for the day, and I wasn't about to call anyone back in. I glanced over at Darius, who was still at his desk, tapping away on his keyboard. "You up for a long night?" I asked, only half joking. He stood up, rolled his shoulders, and nodded. "Let's get it done." We dove in immediately, working through hundreds of pages of legal documents. The edits were complex, and the stakes were high. If we didn't catch every detail, the firm's reputation could take a serious hit. Darius took lead on reorganizing the appendix, while I handled the red lines on the main agreement. Hour after hour passed, the office growing quieter, darker, except for the light spilling from our corner. At one point around 2 a.m., I slumped in my chair and groaned. "I don't know how you're still standing." He chuckled and handed me a cup of coffee. "You're the one who said this was the fun part of the job." I laughed despite my exhaustion. I lied. We pushed through. Every time I started to lose focus, Darius would chime in with a question or a clever workaround. We reviewed, revised, reformatted. I had worked all-nighters before, but I'd never had an intern keep pace like this. By sunrise, the documents were finalized, printed, and ready for delivery. I looked at Darius, his tie loosened, shirt sleeves rolled up, eyes still sharp. We had done it. "You saved the day," I said, not exaggerating. He shrugged. "Just doing my job."
"No, Darius.
You went above and beyond. I'll be sure the partners know it." After that night, Darius's trajectory at the firm changed. He was invited to sit in on client meetings, given special assignments, and fast-tracked for consideration as a full-time hire. I knew he deserved it. He was driven, smart, respectful, and completely reliable. Months passed, and his internship came to an end. On his last day, the entire office gathered for a small send-off. The partners shook his hand, everyone clapped, and I even got a little misty-eyed. As we stood near the elevator, I said, "You've got something rare, Darius. Don't lose it." He smiled, then said, "Thank you, Ms. Walker. Working with you changed everything. You'll make a great lawyer. I'll make sure to send you a picture when I pass the bar." We shared one final handshake before he stepped into the elevator. The doors closed, and I knew we hadn't seen the last of him. True to his word, 2 years later, I received an email with a photo of Darius holding his certification. He was now officially Attorney Darius Thompson. I printed that email and pinned it to my office corkboard, a reminder that real dedication, true character, always stands out.